Yeah.
Oh my goodness, y'all. I am running late. Oh. What y'all thinking about the verdict? Y'all got to give me a moment. I got to go get my chair, honey, because listen, the verdict is in. I told y'all that it was going to happen today. Well, guess what? He's been found not guilty. The only thing he's been convicted of, y'all, is prostitution. Y'all, give me a minute. I got to grab my chair. Oh. Y'all, I'm just getting back. I had to run. Oh my gosh. Woo. Oh, y'all. What y'all think? What y'all saying in the chat? Oh my goodness. Let me get my color. I'm out of breath. I am out of breath. But listen, I think it's fair because think about it, y'all. I said, I don't know how he's going to get out of. Let me turn this damn fan off. It's loud. I was wondering how was he going to get out of the prostitution stuff. I was trying to figure out how he's going to get out of that. Well, it looks like that was the only thing he was convicted of. And listen, y'all, let's just keep it real. I didn't see this case as a sex trafficking case. I just did not, because did they not testify that they wanted to do it? Please, y'all, hit the like button as y'all come in. Please hit the like button. What y'all saying in the chat? What are y'all saying in the chat? I rushed here. I had to take my son to his appointment, but I told him he gonna have to catch a lift. Like, he the only one in my house without a license. He said he don't want to drive. He need to figure it out. Woo, y'all, let's get into it. Let's get into the verdict, y'all. Woo, it's over. It's over. Now, I do feel like the charges that he got makes a lot of sense. All right. They want him to get bail. I think he should.
You can't believe them. I think that's not a way to handle these cases. And I think what the defense did well is in talking to the human aspect of these are very messy relationships, that Seancombs is an abuser. And Mark McNichol said it himself. If Seancombs was accused of domestic violence, there would not be a trial because he would plead guilty. Do I think that's a bit of showmanship? Yes. Do I think that would actually be true? Maybe not. But I think arguing it nonetheless in front of a jury and admitting to some of the bad facts and trying to parse through it all, I think it gave them credibility to get to this verdict.
Let's bring in our Bernarda Villalona, who's been also with us as an attorney, as a contributor here at ABC News. You and I have been talking every day for months now about this case, Bernarda. I asked Brian this question as an attorney who has been involved with domestic violence.
So, guys, I just want to say this. I think this was extremely fair. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I was a little bit worried when the jury wanted those statements. The transcript from yesterday. I was wondering, I said, are they going to find him guilty on the sex trafficking charge? But they didn't. So I think that this jury got it right, because in all honesty, I don't understand how they could prove that this man sex trafficked them when you're not telling the dates that this occurred. But then you have Cassie saying that during that hotel where, they had the fight or whatever. But then, and I said this yesterday, I don't know if I missed it, but somebody said in the chat that one of the workers actually testified and said that they actually were not having a freak off during that time. So I think the jury got it right, because one thing that they can prove is that he paid for them prostitutes, because they said that he paid for it on his card. So I think they got it right. I think they got it right. Somebody said, I wonder how Cassie and Jane Doe feel. Who cares? Jane Doe needs to be evicted. He needs to stop paying that whole rent, because I wouldn't be paying it if I was him.
Violence cases. I want to ask you as well your thoughts on what this means for the victims.
For the victims, I think this is a slap in the face for the victims. I think this is going to deter victims from coming.
Isn't this so crazy when they're okay? What do people really want? He went through a jury. The jury found this man not guilty. And now it's a slap in the face for victims. ma'am, the jury felt that they were not victims. So this is not a slap in the face for a victim. This is a slap in the face for hoes that want to go out and pretend that they're victims, because Cassie was no victim. That's why I really never did a lot on this. I saw through her from the very beginning. She was never a victim. Now, she was victimized, but everything she participated in is exactly what she wanted to participate in. Now, I know some people don't like that, and I don't give a F. She participated in exactly what she wanted to. Now, did she need to be beat up and abused? Absolutely not. She was there for the money. She stayed for the money, and she rode till the wheels fell off, okay? The reason that she left was simply because she was messing around with another man, and she realized that Diddy didn't really like her like that, because he said Kim was his soulmate. And then that's when she left. You know, they kept testifying that Diddy wouldn't let her leave, but she left. So all of that was a bunch of lies. Cassie and her friend Mia lied. Mia got on the stand and lied, said, you know, Puffy held her off of a, you know, dangling her, lies. But then she tell us she knows the date. She gives us a date. They find out that Diddy is on red carpets. He's doing all of these other things. So she's caught up in a lie. They mix truth with lies, and it is what it is.
Forward and telling their story and being the voice for the voiceless, in the sense of representing other victims that are not willing to come forward. I know that for a fact. I'm sure that the prosecution right now is very upset with this verdict, because they definitely put a lot of time in.
The prosecution put a lot of time in this, letting us know that he abused women. We knew that. Like, that is the one thing they made sure we never forgot, is that Diddy abused women. But what they forgot is that they didn't charge him with that. We were here to find out about the sex trafficking. We were here to find out about the transportation and all of that. And they did not prove their case. See, the case wasn't proved. It wasn't. And that's just that.
Into this prosecution, into this investigation. And they also did a lot of comforting of trying to give strength to these women, to Jane and to Cassie, to come forward, to show their face, to share their story. And this is not just like any other regular domestic violence case or just any type of abuse case. You're dealing that they were stepping forward to speak against a music mogul, a person who had the key to New York City, one of the most powerful people in the industry. So just think of how scared they were to come forward and to tell their story, and scared of what could happen once they came forward. Because I'm sure with social media and people talking in the news, that they have received a lot of threats and people commenting about who they are and what they've done, and that there are liars. But
And see, y'all, listen, this is why I'm just not the sort of person that just believe women or believe men. I take the facts, because people lie. The facts don't. The fact that she's sitting her red suit wearing ass up here giving us this sob story, ma'am, the jury has spoken. The jury has spoken, and the jury didn't believe they were victims, just like a lot of other people. Like, this girl, go somewhere. Nobody believed that they were victims. That's why he was found not guilty.
they alone know what happened to them. And they had prosecutors that believed in them and believed their story and became their voice.
Aaron, I understand court has now been adjourned. Combs was escorted out. A massive applause was heard from within the courtroom.
The judge said court is adjourned for now, Kira. He's going to give the parties until 1 p.m. Eastern time to submit letters arguing for or against his release on bail. The judge left the bench until later on this afternoon, when he'll give his decision.
And I think they should let this man go. Let him go. If y'all remember, he was in there because they were talking about the S trafficking. He has been found not guilty, okay? So he's been found not guilty of the racketeering charge. Now, if y'all remember, the racketeering charge was the one that they just couldn't agree on. That's the one where the judge said, hey, y'all go back in there, figure it out, deliberate a little bit more. And I said today, I bet they're going to say, look, it's not guilty. Because if we can't agree and you saying yes, you saying no, then we're going to agree that it's not guilty. Okay. That's what they did for that one. Now, for the sex trafficking and coercion as it relates to, we're going to just say this one is for Cassie, not guilty. Okay. Now, the transportation to engage in the prostitution part, he was found guilty on that. And let me just tell you why. Because they said he paid for it on his credit card. I know, there were times where Cassie actually paid for it, but it looks like there were times that he paid for it. So that's the lesser charge. There's no violence tied to this charge. So he was found guilty on those 2 counts. So what they want is for him to be released. Let him be released. It seems like the prosecutors are still trying to say how dangerous he is. The prosecutors need to listen, girls, women, let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Let this man go. Let him live his life. He's went through the trial. They found him not guilty. All the hate that the people got, figure it out. Let this man go. So they're going to decide if they're going to let him go. Let him go. I mean, he's went through the trial. He was found not guilty. Racketeering is life. He would have had to spend his entire life in jail. Okay. sex trafficking, not guilty. Sex trafficking, not guilty. The jury didn't buy it. They did not believe it. Y'all can't retry it. It's a done data. Let this man go. Let him go. Like, what are you holding him for?
Once the judge was off the bench, Seancombs was escorted out by the marshals. The judge told him he's going to have to cool his heels in the courthouse for a bit. But as he left the courtroom, there were applause from the gallery, some cheers in the gallery, where members of his family have been in steadfast vigil. His mother here most days, his twin daughters back, his sons have been here most days. They cheered for their father after he was acquitted of the most serious charges that he faces, still convicted of transportation for the purposes of prostitution. And now we await the decision as to whether he's going to be released on bail. If he is, he will walk out to a crowd that includes people holding up Sean John t-shirts and other supporters who have been here saying, "Where's the RICO?" They've been shouting that into the street for weeks. And they would certainly welcome this verdict if he is to walk out those golden doors, Kira. For the jury, they really had to make a difficult decision, not just on the racketeering conspiracy, but as the defense said, the women that Combs was accused of trafficking were also his long-term girlfriends. cassieventura with him for 11 years, Jane with him for more than 3 years. And the defense tried to argue that they were consensual relationships, that they were in it just as much as he was, because that was their lifestyle, even though they.
And so, guys, the thing with that, and we always got to remember this, the jury didn't buy it. The jury just didn't buy it. And if y'all really pay attention to that, juries are really reflective of real people just like us. Some of us believed it, some of us didn't. For me, I didn't believe a lot of it. Some of it just didn't make sense. I mean, you say you were ard, right? But we found out the time that you say you were ard was the time that your husband called you. Well, you wasn't married to him then, but you were in a relationship with a whole nother man. So it was seeming like you just said that so that you can have an excuse as to why you actually slept with somebody you probably shouldn't have, because you were already in a relationship with somebody else. Okay. Then you say this man ard you, but you willingly, after he ard you, went back and had sex with him another time. Yeah, that don't make sense. Like, we do have common sense, and trying to play in our face because you think we're stupid is why he was found not guilty. I feel like if they would have brought the story, the real story, what really happened, maybe they would have got a conviction, but they told too many damn lies. Mia with her lying self. Now all of a sudden she's saying he ard her, but girl, in 6 months, you never said that. Now all of a sudden, oh, he ard me. The story is crazy. And then they say Mia's sitting up there like an idiot, like she can't talk and all of this performing, all of this stuff. Just go. It was just too much. It was too much. Jane Doe gets up there. Why was Jane Doe even there? And why won't she just use her real name? We already know who she is. They say Jane Doe gets up there and essentially she's supposed to be a prosecution witness. And she's helping the defense. Like, it's just like Dr. Lori Luck's life. I heard that that's exactly what's getting ready to happen. I heard that they are getting ready to sue her. And they should, just like they sued Diddy, because she was in on it too. She was in on it too. And you know what? What they say, when you dig a hole for somebody, dig one for yourself. Y'all plan didn't work. And it is what it is. Your plan didn't work, and it is what it is.
They freely admitted the polyamorous swingers kink was not everybody's cup of tea, but he said these women were in it, and it required the jury to make distinctions between consent and coercion and love and control and free will, and in the end, they acquit on the most serious charges that carried a minimum sentence of 15 years, acquitting on sex trafficking, in addition to the racketeering conspiracy.
Bernard, I want to bring you back in on that. As Aaron was saying, this really came down to violence and fear versus love, infidelity, and jealousy. We are watching the doors now to see if lawyers will be coming out and coming to the mics. But Bernarda, Seancombs.
So let me just repeat it. So Shawnee, he was found not guilty of trafficking both Cassie and Jane Doe. Not guilty. He was found not guilty on racketeering. The only charge he's convicted of is basically paying for a prostitute to come over here to have sex. That is the least of all of the charges. That was the only thing he was convicted of, and they are mad.
Holmes may be acquitted of the most serious charges here, but let's talk about the impact all of this will have on ongoing civil cases.
Yes, so you have to think, so even though he was acquitted of the most serious charge in this criminal case, when we're talking about a civil case, it's a different burden. The criminal case is beyond a reasonable doubt. When you're dealing with civil cases, it's by a preponderance of the evidence, 51% versus 49%. But then again, with a civil case, he's just at risk of losing his empire in terms.
You know what, Kay? I'm with you on that. And I feel like what the government did is they ran with that video. I feel like when that video came out, who wasn't pissed? Like, damn, Diddy, why you have to do the girl like that? But what people fail to realize is that was domestic violence. Charge him with domestic violence. How you gonna charge this man with a damn RICO case for, domestic violence? So I feel like the government showed us, because I really feel like the government was the one that put that tape out. I feel like that was part of their plan to show that and think that that was going to be the sole decider, because when people saw that video, they were pissed off at Diddy, like, wait a minute, why are you doing these sorts of things? And then originally he said that it didn't happen or something like that. So I think they kind of felt like that particular video was really going to make people decide that he actually did it. And in all honesty, a lot of women, because I be watching the comments, a lot of women just feel like he just needs to go to jail for the rest of his life. And I'm just like, damn, for what part? And then they'll say, oh, because look at what he did to Cassie. Well, I think they need to round up all of the men that abuse women then and get them life, because that, unfortunately, putting your hands on somebody or fighting somebody is not a RICO case. It is not okay to do, but you cannot overly charge a person. And I feel like the jury, they were smart. Did y'all know all of the people of the jury were all college graduates? These people were smart. They understood that they had overcharged this case from the very beginning. Yes, he did pay for prostitutes. That was the thing that they found him guilty of
money, but his liberty is no longer at stake. So he can live to fight those cases outside of jail bars.
You bring up a good point, because if he would have been found guilty of racketeering, that could have forced him to forfeit all his businesses, right?
Absolutely. So if he would have been found guilty of racketeering, conspiracy, and of the sex trafficking, anything that was used in order to facilitate this crime. So for example, his mansions in Florida and his mansion in Los Angeles would have been at risk that it would have been taken away from the government, since there was evidence that was put forth having to deal with that some of the sex trafficking took place inside of those homes. So he would have been at risk of losing that, and also a lot of his businesses and his money.
In his closing argument, one of Combs' defense attorneys asked jurors to summon the courage to acquit Combs, who conceded he could be violent, jealous, and a drug user, but whose lawyers argued the case is badly exaggerated to make.
So for me, I felt like that it could go both ways. Because I see you guys are putting in the chat that you thought that he would be found not guilty. So I felt like he should be found not guilty, but you always got to understand, you know, when it comes to, you know, a jury trial, it's really in what the jury believes. Now, yesterday, when they wanted that transcript of that worker saying that Cassie had been being beaten, the first thing came to my mind. I'm like, oh my God, why do they want to see that? It seems like they're trying to convict him of that. So I was all up in the air like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? So I really felt from the very beginning that the case was a witch hunt. I believe that, I mean, we know he put his hands on the people. We watched it. I mean, we've heard things like that. I've heard things about Diddy being freaky, but I just didn't feel like it rose to the level of he was trafficking them. And then if you guys really think about it, and I said this before, when the case first came out, I was like, whoa, what is this dude doing? But to find out that the trafficking that they're talking about is they're sleeping with prostitutes, and you know, it's crazy. And then the prostitutes are testifying that Cassie enjoyed it. I'm just like, what are we watching here? What are we watching here? Shawnee said, I wonder, would he get time served? Well, I don't know. Diddy's attorneys want him released because what they're saying is he was acquitted on all of the charges that would be tied to any sort of violence. If y'all remember, the prosecution was like, no, he can't get out. He's violent. Well, first of all, he is convicted of transportation of a sex worker. So you can't use that against him. So we'll see what the judge say. Let this man out. He's not guilty for racketeering. He's not guilty of the sex trafficking of both of those hoes. Let this man out. Let him out. Let him out.
Combs like something he is not. Do you think that's what happened, Brian Buckmeyer?
I think, I don't know. This one I'm still trying to wrap my mind around, and I apologize. I'm trying to get information from different people as I go about this, trying to get information for people inside the court. I think, let me try to put it into words. I think when it comes to this case, this might have been more about how the case was handled than the actual people who testified. I could see how this might be an indictment on the women who testified, and I would say, as someone who watched them, I don't think it should be. I think, if anything, this is about how the case was handled by the government in terms of how they argued it, how they presented it, and the people that were selected. People being selected being the jurors, not the team themselves. And so I think as we move forward with this case and we see what's going to happen, because there is a possibility, although small, that Seancombs walks out today, I think we just take stock of what we heard, what was argued, and what the result was, and not lay this at the feet of anyone who testified.
And now I understand, Aaron, a statement has been given on behalf of cassieventura, star witness in this case. What are you learning?
Her attorney, Doug Wigdor, just sent us the following statement. This entire criminal process started when our client, cassieventura, had the courage to file her civil complaint in November 2023. And Kira, we should say that's true. The criminal investigation is largely based on the statements in cassieventura lawsuit, and intensified, of course, once video from the 2016 hotel security camera became public. The statement from Doug Wigder, her attorney, goes on to say, although the jury did not find Combs guilty of sex trafficking Cassie beyond a reasonable doubt, she paved the way for a jury to find him guilty of transportation to engage in prostitution. By coming forward with her experience, Cassie's attorney, Doug Wigder, goes on to say, Cassie has left an indelible mark on both the entertainment industry and the fight for justice. We must repeat with no reservation that we believe and support our client, who showed exemplary courage throughout this trial. She testified for 4 days, often quite emotionally so, giving graphic, explicit detail of what she said she was made to do. And Seancombs did not deny the facts of the freak-offs. Everything that happened in those hotel rooms did not.
So guys, this is Cassie's attorney speaking, which is so crazy because Cassie didn't tell us shit, because Cassie was a part of it. So it's not like she was someone from the outside looking in. She partaked with those prostitutes. So she didn't open the door for no damn body. She was a part of it. She was with it. She liked it. And I wish these people would stop these lies. This is why he got a non-guilty.
Get challenged by the defense. The defense simply saw it differently, as something that went on in a personal, consensual relationship, not sex trafficking. And that's how the outcome is reflected now, Kira.
Bernardo, I want to go on to read another part of that statement on behalf of Cassie Ventura's attorney, saying she displayed unquestionable strength and brought attention to the realities of powerful men in our orbit and the misconduct that has persisted for decades without repercussion. This case proved that change is long overdue, and we will continue to fight on behalf of survivors. Two things that
Cassie is not a fucking survivor. How is she a survivor when she was sleeping with the prostitutes too, telling them to piss on her? Get out of here. So this is why they got a not guilty, because of these sorts of things. Cassie is no survivor. She was right along with them. And allegedly, Cassie is getting ready to be sued, is what I'm hearing, that some of those people are going to sue her. So the fact that she painted herself to be a victim, she ain't no damn victim. She partook in everything that was happening, which is why, again, he got not guilty, because even the jury didn't believe it. The jury did not believe it. Now, I know, there's a few of y'all that support Cassie and go right ahead, but you do realize the jury didn't buy it. They didn't buy what Cassie was saying. What she was selling, they wasn't buying it.
stood out to me: powerful men in our orbit and the misconduct that persists and change that is long overdue. Your thoughts?
Power and money. You can buy yourself out of a conviction. Let's be honest that if Seancombs wasn't able to get the team that he got and pay for that defense team and experts and investigators to help defend himself, that we would have had a different outcome today. But money and power, that you can still get away with crimes if you have money and power. But I have to say, I was in the courtroom for Cassie's testimony, and she was a strong, strong witness. You can tell that the courage that she had, the strength that she exhibited. I mean, when she spoke and when she will cry from time to time, when she revisited the
Well, we know she got strength because it take a strong woman to pounce on several dicks all night. So the fact that she's strong, she way stronger than me, baby, because ain't no way in hell. So why she talking about, oh, she's so strong? She's definitely strong with a strong back. Absolutely.
those freak offs, and when she revisited those times where Seancombs brutally beat her, and to see her in court sitting down, showing the strength and courage that she was able to overcome this. I think one of the most strongest moments that brought people to tears is when she said at some point that she went home and she told her husband, "You can do this without me," and that she wanted to cross the street and commit suicide because of what she had been through. But I'm glad that Cassie has been able to pick herself up and has been able to move on, taking it day by day, because it does show the strength that she got as a result of coming forward. That coming forward helped to bring closure to her.
Bernarda, thank you. Aaron, getting more insight from Seancombs inside that courtroom, saying this coming from journalists in the press room. He was overcome with emotion as the verdict was read. His feet were visibly shaking throughout the reading of the verdict.
He has been an emotional defendant throughout the entire case. In fact, at one point, the judge had to admonish his attorney that Combs was gesturing and trying to make eyes with jurors as if to attempt to influence them when they were hearing certain testimony. And the judge made him sit straight and silent throughout much of the testimony. But as the verdict was being read, he started gesturing. He got down on the floor after it was over to kneel in prayer. Applause broke out into the courtroom. And I'm struck, Kira, the crowd has gathered here outside, and in the windows of the upper floors, courthouse employees are peering down to look at the streetscape below as more people rush toward these doors in anticipation of a possible release on bail sometime later on today, Kira.
And as we wait to hear what the outcome of that is, of course, if indeed the judge decides he could be released today, Brian Buckmeyer, let's talk about the jury makeup here and how it influenced this case. You think we talked about the fact that it was 8 men, 4 women. Your thoughts on the number of men in this case versus women, and how you see that influencing what happened here?
Yes, I know oftentimes when we look at jurors, we look at race or gender. And yes, there's a possibility that the number of...
The thing about it too, guys, Cassie was not a victim. Cassie was strictly out for the money. She was out for the money, and that's exactly what she got. What victim do you know of that was victimized, and the first thing you do is sue? That's not what victims do. First, if Cassie was really a victim, the first thing she would have did was consulted the people that is trying to put him in prison now. But what Cassie did is she filed the lawsuit because she needed to make sure she needed to get the money first. Now, before filing the lawsuit, what Diddy alleges that she had been trying to get money from him for some time, because she was telling him that if he did not pay her, she would expose him in the book. That didn't work. So ultimately, she ended up filing a lawsuit. But the part that people miss, because I missed it, is that Diddy did not pay her. Cassie allegedly, I don't even need to say allegedly, Cassie sued his businesses. His businesses are insured. So that is kind of how she got the money. So we all kind of think Diddy just gave her $20 million. He absolutely didn't. His insurance did. Okay, so she went for the money first, which is a clear indication that it's definitely money motivated. So not only did she get the $20 million from Diddy's companies, she sued the hotel, which we learned in court, for another $10 million. This was totally money motivated. Then you have her friend Mia, who is saying he owed her, which she's suing for $10 million. But get this, in the text messages between Diddy and Mia, Diddy is telling Mia, I'm going to tell Cassie about what happened between us. So you're saying Diddy is telling Mia, I'm going to tell Cassie about me owing you? That don't make sense. These women brought their ass on this stand and they lied. They were not honest. And the jury just didn't believe them. And people need to just get over it. They didn't believe, they were not believable.
Men in this case could have been beneficial to Seancombs in terms of trying to decide what this relationship was like. But I think probably more importantly than race or gender would be age. And the reason why I say that is because when it comes to the conversation as to whether or not these were consensual relationships, which appears to be at the heart of the jury's verdict in terms of saying, yes, we saw that you brought these people across state lines for prostitution, but we don't believe there was force, fraud, or coercion for trafficking, and we don't believe that there was a criminal enterprise or that there was not 2 predicate acts. right? I think a large part of the not believing comes down to consent. And what I find, at least when I talk to a jury or just talk to people in general, is there's a big divide in terms of what is consent when you talk to someone who is over the age of 40 or 45 and under the age of 40 or 45. And when you have a jury where more than half of them are 51 years to 74 years old, and even if you go even below that, there's a number of people who are in their 40s, I think the conversation and the argument that Mark Agnifilo and his team were having about what it means to consent works for people in that age demographic. I think if we had a jury that was predominantly in their 20s or early 30s, this argument of consent would be very different. So while I do see that there is value in looking at the gender or the sex of the jurors, I think the age told us a lot more based on the arguments we saw.
Bernarda, you think it was smart that Seancombs did not take the stand?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If Seancombs would have taken the stand, this case would have become a deliberation of whether this jury believed what Seancombs had to say, whether his demeanor came off as one as credible. Also, you have to think where if Seancombs were to testify, there was a lot of evidence that the prosecution was not able to get in their case in chief because they were missing a link. And that link would have been Seancombs. So they would have been able to get that evidence in had Seancombs testified. So it would have changed the deliberation process, and we would have probably been looking at a completely different verdict. Also got to think, how would he be able to explain in terms of the brutal beating of Cassie and of Jane on that particular occasion?
Aaron, do you think we'll hear from the family? Seancombs' mother, Janice, was in the courtroom along with his sons, his daughters. Are they expected to speak? Do you think they will speak?
I'm not sure. They haven't yet during the course of this trial, but the cars that they've been using to transport themselves to and from the courthouse are now pulling up to the front here, and they should be walking out those golden doors any moment. They may opt to wait until they know whether Combs is going to get released on bail, as his defense attorney argued he should be. And Combs almost seemed confident that the judge would grant it. He mouthed and said aloud to members of his family in the gallery, "I'm coming home, baby," after the split verdict here, acquitting him of the most serious charges, but finding him guilty of transportation for the purposes of prostitution. And because that is not a violent crime, the defense said that he has earned the right to get released on $1 million bail, as Combs offered to put up.
Aaron, we talk about the support outside of the courthouse there, the cheers that were heard from inside the courtroom. We should point out it's because he had his mom and his kids inside that courtroom. But if you want to talk about people showing up to support Seancombs throughout all of this, the only celebrity that we witnessed, and correct me if I'm wrong, that came to show support was Kanye West.
That's right, and what a moment that was. The family now is coming out. You can see the mother of Seancombs waving and giving a thumbs up. His sons walking out as well. Twin daughters. You can hear perhaps the cheers from some of the supporters, if you can hear them over the hum of the traffic. There were supporters in the courtroom throughout, a few outside, but only Kanye West showed up to court. And when he walked in his all-white suit, he said he was here to support Seancombs, but he never saw him. He was not allowed inside the courtroom itself. He watched about 10 minutes of the proceedings inside an overflow room and was in and out of the courthouse in about 20 minutes. And we're not sure whether he was invited or not, or showed up of his own volition. There really haven't been that many supporters apart from his family that just left court, as you can see, waving and giving a thumbs up moments ago. Seancombs has been largely left alone with members of his family, including the mother of at least one of his children. His twin daughters were here at the beginning. They came at the end. His sons were here throughout the case, as was his mother. And when the jury came back stuck yesterday, Combs turned to his mother and said, "It's going to be okay." And today, after the outcome, he turned to his family and said,
Thank you for the super chat, Mahogany. I want to address one of the questions, or I'm not going to say a question. What is placed in the chat, because I think some of y'all don't know. Cassie was not a victim, okay? He didn't groom Cassie. I don't know if you know, Cassie was prior to dating Diddy, was dating a man 10 years older than her. So she liked it dating older men. Diddy didn't need to groom her. She was already dating a man that was 10 years older than her, Ryan. So remember, Ryan placed her and Diddy together, but she hopped on Diddy dick. So she wasn't groomed. She was definitely, most definitely there for the money, because if you were beaten, you can definitely sue the person. But if suing is the first thing you did, she was there for the money. She got it. And the jury saw through it. And that is why he is not guilty. Cassie was with, it's really crazy that Cassie came to court. She testified about all the hoes that Diddy had. But then when Diddy team was like, well, you was with this person, you was with, Cassie is manipulative. She's manipulative. And it works on a lot of y'all because, I mean, the jury saw through it. They found him not guilty. So he's not guilty. He wasn't guilty of it. Cassie is manipulative. She's manipulative. She used her look, came to court pregnant. All of that was used to try to put this man in jail. I am so glad that the jury saw through it, because look, I'm not saying that Diddy is a good person or anything like that. He shouldn't be putting his hands on women. He shouldn't be dragging them. That's so out of line, and it's so crazy. But you know what's even more crazy is, why in the hell is you still letting this Negro drag you all around? Like, at some point, just never come back. But you come back because he got the money. But here's the deal. Why should this man go to jail for the rest of his life just because he nasty and want to do all of this freak stuff? If that's the case, arrest all they little nasty asses and put them in jail. Like, it's not right for him to spend the rest of his life in jail. He didn't traffic y'all. Y'all could have left. You didn't want to leave because you wanted the money. Let's just be real. You wanted the money. You wanted everything that came with messing with a celebrity man.
Said, I'm coming home, baby.
Bernardo, let me pull something out of what Aaron just said. Seancombs was largely left alone through all of this. We're talking about somebody that was a huge businessman, a music mogul, a producer, a huge part of making hip hop mainstream. He threw these lavish parties. He was always pointed to at big events and galas. The fact that Aaron said he was largely left alone, what does that tell you?
And he was. I was in the courtroom for the entire trial with the exception of one day. And literally the only person who showed up was Kanye. And the jury didn't get to see Kanye because he was in an overflow room. But in terms of being left alone, Kira, are you surprised? When you look at that video, the Intercontinental video, there's no running from it. And artists and celebrities, they wanted to run away from that because they didn't want to be associated with that type of violence. So it came down to money.
Bernardo, thank you. Aaron, want to take it to you as we reach the top of the hour here. We now wait to see if indeed the judge makes a decision. He says he will make it today if he will allow Seancombs to be released and walk out those doors behind you.
The judge gave them several hours to make written arguments before he issues a decision on release on bail. But Seancombs.
So what do y'all think is going to happen? Do y'all think that the judge is going to let him out? I think if the judge does not let him out, he's going to be looking a certain kind of way. I believe the judge is going to release him. Keep in mind, y'all, the reason that he had to stay in jail because the prosecution was saying, you know, he's such a horrible person. And, you know, he is convicted of these violent crimes. And we are for sure he's going to be convicted. He ain't convicted. Y'all got to let this man out. Like, let him out. Because in all actuality, the judge don't even got to send him to prison. I mean, he can get time served. He can get probation. You know what I mean? What do y'all think? Somebody say, what y'all, if you think he's going to get out on bail say yes in the chat. If you think that they're going to leave him there until sentencing, say no. Right. That's what I'm saying, Sherry. They have no reason to hold him. You say, Keisha, we don't know what's to come of the civil cases. Yeah, but the civil cases have nothing to do with this. I mean, I can sue you. You can sue me. That's not criminal. The civil cases is civil. That has nothing to do with it. And I mean, so Cassie's lawyer says this entire criminal process started when our client, 𝐾𝐶IVENtura, had the courage to file her civil complaint in November 2023. Although the jury did not find Combs guilty of sex trafficking, Cassie, beyond a reasonable doubt, she paved the way for a jury to find him guilty of transportation to engage in prostitution, which is crazy because Cassie, you were one of the ones having sex. This is so crazy. By coming forward with her experience, Cassie has left an indelible mark on both the entertainment industry and the fight for justice. Cassie, girl, you were not fighting for justice. We must repeat with no reservation that we believe and support our client who showed exemplary courage through this trial. She displayed questionable strength and brought together attention to realities of powerful men in our orbit and the misconduct that has persisted for decades without repercussion. This case proved that change is long overdue, and we will continue to fight on behalf of survivors. Cassie, girl, you are no damn survivor. You were partaking in it. You were sleeping with the escort. So make it make sense. What y'all saying in the chat? He's been in jail since September 2024. Is the judge going to let him out?
Violence. I was at his bail applications for the 3 times that he made a bail application. And the huge sticking point by the prosecution, by the government, is the violence itself, and that he was intimidating witnesses and still in contact and breaking the rules while he was in custody. Now, at this moment, those were allegations. Now a jury of his peers has spoken and has found him not guilty. So those are no longer allegations. So he should be freed. In terms of what the judge is going to consider is 1, that he was acquitted. 2, that the sentence that he is facing, there is not a mandatory minimum. So technically the judge can even sentence him to probation or to time served. 3, whether there's a risk of flight, of him not returning to face sentencing date. That is highly unlikely, especially since Seancombs knows what the exposure is, and also that for him to flee, it would give him a bigger exposure and almost guaranteed a jail sentence if he weren't to come back. So the judge should release him today. In terms of sentencing, now that's a long process there. The first thing that's going to take.
Okay, I want to address a comment. Elisa, do you mind telling us why your comment says, oh my God, I had enough of this BS already. Send him to jail, period. Do you care to elaborate a little? Because, I mean, he was found not guilty. Do you care to elaborate? I just noticed that, when I see different comments from different people, sometimes people have been traumatized or they've been through something similar as this. And when they hear about this, they immediately say, send them to jail, send them to jail. So I'm just trying to get a good idea of what you're talking about. I mean, he was found not guilty on the most severe charges. So typically the judge can say time served. So I'm just trying to get an understanding of your comment. Keisha, do you think this will make victims not come forward? I do not think that this will not make victims come forward, because y'all, we got to be honest. Everybody that say that they are a victim, they not. We got to understand. Let's have a real conversation, okay? Let's have a real conversation. There are real victims. There are also money hungry people who want to use a story to get money. And I feel like this is exactly what this was. These women were not victims. They were not victims. I mean, how? Tell me, how was Jane Doe a victim? How was she a victim? Jane Doe was doing freak offs with other people. She was getting paid $10,000 a month. He had to put down, was it 20 or 30? Jane allegedly had bad credit, because I don't know how the only time you got to pay the first and the last month is when you got bad credit. I do not think this is going to deter victims. I think it's going to deter hoes, because this is exactly what these women were. They wanted to use him to try to get more money for themselves. These women were never victims. See, Cassie got into a situation with the man, see, her husband, who Diddy actually introduced to her because he was the trainer. So Diddy essentially was paying for the trainer. Cassie started effing the trainer. So that's kind of like Cassie was effing the trainer. Cassie was effing the one dude that they claimed he blew up the car, which Diddy had hooked her up with him to do a song, and she was effing him too. So Cassie is not innocent here. So I feel like this is going to deter hoes, because all this was a come up. These women pretend to be victims. What victim do you know on the stand saying how much you love somebody, but you're mad because he was spending time with another woman? This is crazy. Like, what? That's why I stopped watching. I'm like, this is too much. No, I do not feel like that. I do not feel like it. Cassie, and even if you think about Cassie, okay? Cassie collected evidence. Why was she collecting evidence? Cassie had evidence that lined up with everything that happened. I can't even remember shit that happened last week. I believe Cassie was planning this as well. I believe the moment she felt like she was going to leave, this is something that she was going to do, because Cassie knew the date stuff happened. She had the bruise to match it. She had too much information up here that she remembered. So she either had to write it down, she had to take pictures of stuff. And I believe this was something that she was planning the entire time, y'all. We can't remember shit from last year. How the hell is she remembering something from 8-9 years ago? And she remembered it correctly. Nobody remembers like that. No. Nobody remembers like that. I believe Cassie was scheming the entire time. What did you say here? Say less. No one cared about what he did until he started pointing out racism and saying he is pushing for more opportunities for Black humans. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that could be true. It's just, I just feel like whatever they say he did, they did a horrible ass job proving it. They did a horrible job proving it. Well, Vaughn, as it's related to the charges that he has now, these charges carry very little time. So he may not even spend no time in jail. The judge may say time served. Keep in mind, Vaughn, he was convicted of basically paying for a worker to come in town. Girl, that is so little. He's probably just going to get time served. And the judge has to be very careful with this case, because if the judge going to try to give him a bunch of time for this, that's going to look bad. The judge is probably going to say time served, maybe say probation. You cannot send somebody to prison for paying for a sex worker to come in town and come on now. Like, he's not convicted of anything else. So I don't think he's going to get a lot of time. I think it's going to be time served, because if the judge if the judge is going to look very bad. And I believe this judge wants to look fair. That's just my thoughts.
in his pocket, that those filing civil lawsuits might be able to find a victory through that process. I compare and contrast to, for example, the R. Kelly trial, where he was found guilty of racketeering conspiracy, and there was a forfeiture there, and many of the people filing civil lawsuits against R. Kelly found it difficult to win in those cases.
And I want to bring in Kelly Carter to talk about the cultural impact here, because Kelly, it's hard to understate or overstate, I should say, the role of Seancombs in music and culture in general. I mean, not only was he a legend in rap music, he was a legend in music in general, as a producer, as an artist, and then on to becoming a businessman with an empire. What does this mean for all that now?
I mean, I think it means a lot. The truth of the matter is that it almost didn't really matter what the outcome was of this trial. The conversation changes immediately about what his legacy is. You know, this is a person who really touched every corner of pretty much every industry, not just music, not just spirits, not just fashion, politics, pretty much every industry he touched. He really ushered the hip hop generation into the mainstream, into commercialism, and made it the billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar industry that it is right now. And I think, you know, regardless of the outcome, it's going to be difficult for people to unhear some of that testimony and to certainly unsee, you know, that infamous now Intercontinental video that was released with him and Cassie from 2016. And I think that it'll be interesting to see what his life is like as a businessman moving forward, but I don't expect to see something in the immediacy. And I definitely expect us to be dissecting his legacy for a good while now.
And we do have a statement from cassieventura attorney, Douglas Wigdor. And he says, and I'm quoting here, "This entire criminal process started when our client, Cassieventura, had the courage to file her civil complaint in November of 2023. Although the jury did not find Combs guilty of sex trafficking Cassie beyond a reasonable doubt, she paved the way for a jury to find him guilty of transportation to engage in prostitution. By coming forward with her experience, Cassie has left an indelible mark on both the entertainment industry and the fight for justice. We must repeat with no reservation that we believe and support our client, who showed exemplary courage throughout this trial." The statement goes on to talk about her strength on the stand and to talk about the misconduct they say has persisted for decades without repercussion. Bernarda, I want to go to you on this point of what this means for future cases, precedent here. Does a verdict like this deter future potential witnesses in similar cases?
I think it definitely does. A verdict like this does deter victims and witnesses from coming forward. I think when you're talking about when the perpetrator is one of who has power, who has money, who had the key to the city, I think victims are looking at it, wait, if the prosecution gave it all they had and they went after him and they still didn't find him guilty, what about little old me? What about just regular perpetrator from down the block? What's going to happen in that type of case? So I think this is a huge deterrence for victims.
And Brian, I'm out of time, but I quickly want to touch on the way this case was brought has been criticized from the beginning. The actual charges they brought, the fact that it was a federal trial and so on. Walk me through that part of it. And do you think there are any legal lessons learned there?
I think there are legal lessons in terms of how to bring this case. I think for federal prosecutors, they've used the RICO statute in very creative ways. If you want to talk about R. Kelly, if you want to talk about Donald Trump, there have been people who have been in the spotlight who have bemoaned and said that this is not how the statute is meant to be. And I think this might be one of the first major setbacks in this use of the statute in this kind of new wave. And I think this is going to be, agreeing with what Bernarda said, but I'll add on to a reevaluation of how do we define RICO going forward? Who fits into a RICO? What is a criminal enterprise? And are we going to open or close off how we now progress or move forward in terms of evaluating, should we use this statute for these different types of enterprises?
All right, Rena, Brian, Bernarda, Kelly, thank you all. And big thanks to Aaron Katersky, who again has been at that courthouse from the very beginning. Also, for more on today's verdict, catch the ABC News live show Burden of Proof, the case against Diddy, streaming tonight at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Meanwhile, the rough weather is complicated.
Oh, y'all have to get some food. I was hungry. So Somebody said in the chat, it seems like people got mad when he had that last child. 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞 wasn't treated the best either. Listen, these women, you know, they said Diddy had a little peeny weeny, but the way they was fighting over him, it's just like maybe they was fighting for the money, but baby, they was definitely fighting because Cassie testified that she was jealous of Kim Porter. Jane Doe testified that she was jealous of 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞. Just crazy. No civil cases coming because they all admitted in one way or another they were with the crap. Now let's see how many non-black men are exposed. Well, let's see. Let's see. Well, let's see if the judge is going to let him go. If the judge don't let him go, I'm going to be looking at the judge sideways because he very well needs to leave. What y'all think? Do y'all think Diddy need to get out? Do y'all think he need to stay in? What are y'all thoughts? You know, it's so crazy though. I don't know which bloggers y'all watched when y'all were watching the Diddy trial. I stopped watching a lot of them because I feel like for cases like this, I don't need no bias ass reporting. Bloggers was talking about Diddy going down, Diddy going down. The very ones that y'all be listening to and don't look like Diddy going down. So it look like whoever y'all was listening to, getting y'all Diddy updates was lying to y'all because Diddy is not going down. Diddy is not going down. Right. I don't, in all honesty, Boggs girl, I feel like he should be released. I mean, why is he putting up $1 million bail? Like, come on now. You're in jail for paying for somebody who works for an agency. This is something that they do to come on now. This is dumb. Hi, Rashonda. Now let's see what you're saying. Be good. But at the end of the day, we don't know these people, and there's so much things to worry about that's going on. Oh, I'm not worrying about none of them. We just conversation. I feel like Diddy need to be released. So we know Diddy was not convicted of anything related to either of these women. He was not convicted of sex trafficking for Daphnejoy, who goes by the name of Jane Doe. No, Jane Doe. Cassie, they didn't believe that story either. They didn't believe it. He wasn't convicted of trafficking Cassie either. Now, oh, excuse me. What he was convicted of is basically paying for sex workers to fly in. He was convicted of that. Yep, he definitely was convicted. What are you saying, Say Less? Right. Yeah, they could have left. Somebody said K, special K. I don't listen to the clickbait content creators, free puppy. Well, what I was saying, special K, is during the trial, I would see content creators every day. They were like, Diddy going down, Diddy going down. And then I would watch some other ones and they were kind of reporting what was actually happening. And as it is in court, like some days it's going to be good for the defense. Some days are going to be good for the prosecution. Some content creators every day, they was like, Diddy going down, Diddy going down. I'm just like, so what is the content creator saying now? Because their entire message was telling their audience that Diddy was going down, that he was going to jail. But he ain't. So that's why it's like you got to be careful of these content creators because they be lying. They literally lie for views, because if they would have been reporting to y'all the real story, what was happening in court, you would have probably predicted this already. You would have predicted this already, because Diddy had some wins in court, just like he had some losses in court during the trial. Same way the prosecution had some wins and some losses. So it was like they were winning, they were losing. But some of these content creators were like hating Diddy, and every day they were like, Diddy losing, Diddy. And I'm just like, that is so not true. You said, Dr. Lori Lux, if Kim were still here, he'd get out and marry Kim. I don't think that. I don't think he doesn't. He's not the marriage type. He spoke on that. Yeah, he doesn't. He's not the marriage type. He's already answered that. Yeah, everybody is not meant to be married. He would not marry Kim simply because he's not the marriage type. He said that already. Everybody don't want to be married. When I was younger, I used to want to get married. I don't want to marry nobody. I just don't. I don't want that. Yeah, I don't think he's not the marriage type. There's tons of videos where he speaks on marriage. He don't want to get married. Special K, they would inflate their interpretations and opinions. If the law applies to all, he should be released. If it is the law, they have to let him go. Well, so here's the deal. Whenever somebody has been convicted of something, the normal trajectory is they stay until they're sentenced. But the difference in this case is the reason that the government argued that they didn't want him to be released, remember, it's because he was charged with sex trafficking and all of this and all of that. Well, those charges are now released. He was not convicted of that. So what his team is saying, hey, let our client out, let him come back to court to be sentenced. Because guess what? He ain't finna go to jail for 30 years, 10 years, 5 years. The man is probably going to get time served, probation, or nothing. Y'all do understand what he is convicted of now is basically paying for somebody, a sex worker, to come over. And that's what he's being charged with. That's nothing. That's nothing. Somebody said, I wonder if Cassie has hired security. I doubt that. I doubt that he is even remotely thinking about her. I mean, keep in mind, he was out when, she got the money. So, I mean, I doubt that he's even thinking about her. Right. You see what I'm saying? Exactly, Shawnee. And exactly. They sure did. They dogged him. And this is why you have to understand that. I mean, for one, you got to understand, like, people really hated this man. Now, I've heard some stuff about him. Me and Diddy is really about the same age. I think he's maybe 4 or 5 years older than me. But a lot of times people tend to, we hear stuff about him and they just automatically have this hate, which is crazy because he'll get released and all those folks that wasn't fucking with him then, they'll find a way to come back around and make up a lie as to why they fucking with him now. But yeah, many bloggers and media outlets said he was done. But I mean, God didn't say so. I mean, he's not done. He's not done. And the thing about it is they didn't care about this man going to jail for the rest of his life for doing something that they're doing. They all do it. They all mess around with prostitutes. So don't try to make it seem like you don't do this. You say Cassie is under FBI protection. He knows he can't knock her off even if he wanted to. It is part of her deal. I don't know. I don't believe that. I mean, I don't believe that. The FBI is not going to be protected. They not. I doubt it. Yeah, I don't. That's not true. I don't believe that. Show me the proof. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. that lawyer, blogger, Simone Redwine, she was so convinced guilty on all counts, going to all platforms, including Don Lemon, saying guilty. So let me kind of explain to you something, Kay, about women. And I promise you, it took me to get to YouTube to really understand this. I didn't know it. I did not realize how ugly women can be in the inside. I promise you I did not. But what I've learned with women is when we have been hurt in a certain way, a lot, and we haven't been healed, we carry it. So what I realized with a lot of women is they have been emotionally hurt by men. Some of them have been hurt by men. And because of that, this situation with Puffy, they like put it in jail, put him in jail. So from my standpoint, because I've never experienced that, I can look at it from a different standpoint. Like I don't have hate toward him. I don't even have hate toward him based on what he did to Cassie, because I don't have that trauma. I don't really know what that's like. So I kind of can look at it like, okay, dude, that was wrong. That was domestic violence. You shouldn't have did that. But I don't look at it from the standpoint as put his ass in the jail for the rest of his life. But a lot of women do. They look at it and be like, put him in jail for the rest of his life. I don't look at it like that. Also, I have sons. So because I have sons, I never adopt the attitude of throw a man away because of a woman. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because not only do I have sons, I have a daughter. And I know just how manipulative women can be. So a lot of women throw them in jail. Somebody was saying, throw them in jail. Like, why? Because I don't like them. Huh? You want him to go to jail because you don't like him? You never even met him before. So yeah, he was found not guilty. And frankly, I think it's very fair because he did pay for the prostitutes. He did not sex traffic them hoes. And one of the reasons why I didn't watch the case, because I was irritated. I was irritated that he was being charged with sex trafficking. And I thought that these women were being chained up and something crazy, but finding out, he paying for your $10,000 rental, buying you this, buying you that, but you're saying you being sex trafficked. And then for the government to say he's using money, well, all these hoes need to do is get a job, because the reason that he's using the money to pay their bills is because they broke ass ain't got it. So the fact that you're saying he's using his money to pay, no, they the one begging for the money. Because if y'all remember with the Jane Doe, who is 50's old hoe. Ooh, that was a rhyme. Jane Doe, 50's old hoe. He's paying her barely $5,000 a month. But yet Diddy, the one who she says is trafficking her, is paying her $10,000. Your baby daddy ain't even paying you $10,000. But you gonna get on the stand and say the man is trafficking you? I hope he better stop paying the rent. He better stop paying the rent and put her and her damn son out on the street. What y'all saying? What y'all saying? Special K, you said something real. Alex has most likely discussed it with what? Man, listen. Alex gonna stay around for a few more years and he gonna hit it, because let me just tell you, I don't give a damn how much I love you. You talking about somebody pissed in your mouth? I don't love you. Just go. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want you. No. And then y'all gotta understand, it seemed like she, could have had some kind of STDs or something that they ain't talked about, because I don't understand how you can have all this unprotected sex. Yeah, something ain't right. Right. That's what I was telling that Cosmic girl yesterday, to remove the emoji from this and look at it. Oh, emotion, and look at it. Yeah, you got to remove your emotion, because a lot of women, they operate out of emotion. You put yourself in it and say, because I mean, think about it. If you were Ard and we talking about somebody being trafficked, the first thing come to your mind is what happened to you. This is not your situation. You have to look at this differently. She cheated with Diddy in 2021, and she said he R her on the stand. That was proven in court. She lied, right? And people still exactly. That's exactly what happened, Special K. She was lying. And then the crazy part, like somebody was saying, I hope he go to jail for the rest of his life. And I'm like, for what? I said, Cassie lied. I said, I'm not saying everything she said was a lie. I'm not saying the woman wasn't beat up and she probably, she shouldn't have got beat up. I said, but she did not tell the truth. I said, I feel like she mixed truth with lies. I said, that was the downfall. I said, we have a jury of educated people. Did y'all know everybody on the jury had a degree? I mean, these are not average, everyday people. I said, so you think that they are not able to realize that she's not being authentic and that she's lying? I mean, she was lying. Cassie was lying. And it gave off bitter. It gave off, she was mad. It just didn't give off victim vibes to me. It didn't give off victims. Then they say she came in there, she was dressed up, looking so pretty. That was all a setup. It was all a setup. Y'all try to, but just think about this. Think about this. Imagine, or if you look back at your past, think about a man that you dated that you wanted to get the fuck away from, okay? Because I have. Because listen, I done left shit, gave it away, because when I'm leaving, I'm leaving. Cassie and Diddy ain't been together for how many years? That just goes to show how bitter she really is. She done got with her husband that don't got no damn money, and she realized, listen, I need to go back and get some of that money. So what people is saying is they believe that she used, because they really was doing the freak offs, that she used that situation and changed the facts so that it could benefit her. Because if y'all remember at the time, they were struggling. She was living with, I think it was her mother or something. And they talked about it on the stand. They asked her, was she struggling financially? And she said no, which if you wasn't struggling financially, girl, why was you living with your mama? And then they mentioned that Cassie had a, what did she have? She had an event. I think she was going on tour. Right after she got the money from Diddy, she canceled it. But then she says, oh, I canceled it because after the lawsuit filed, I didn't want people to ask questions. Girl, you would be performing. There will be people in the audience. Those people can't get to you to ask you no questions. Man, if I was Diddy, listen, Diddy is a better person than me. The minute you would have showed up that you was testifying on me, your shit getting turned off. Listen, you and your husband go stay with 50 Cent. Go stay with 50 Cent because you about to be on the streets. He a better person than me because I would have been stopped paying it. Right, Boggs girl. Put him in jail for the things he is guilty of by burden of proof only. If nothing can be proven, you must let him go. That's all I'm saying. I'm not even saying that. I ain't even saying that he guilty. I'm just saying that y'all didn't prove y'all case. Y'all didn't prove y'all case. I mean, if it was a way you could charge him with domestic violence, guilty. Guilty. But they trying to charge this man with coercion from trying to make his girlfriend have sex with him. How many of y'all damn boyfriends didn't coerce y'all or coerce whatever? Because I done been coerced. Nigga, no. You know what I mean? Like, what make this doesn't make sense. It's like y'all are just pulling shit out y'all ass to trying to get this man put in jail. And it's like, this don't add up. It doesn't add up. Right. It doesn't add up. The jury was so over this shitty ass case. The RICO was not found at all. We know that he did get him $100,000. The jury didn't even find him guilty on that. And he really did that. But I think the jury didn't find him guilty on it because they probably was just over this bullshit case. Like, why y'all all in these people bedrooms saying what they can and can't do now. If Cassie ass was, you know, was chained up and some shit like that, Cassie lived in her own house. They didn't live together. They didn't live together. Y'all remember the R. Kelly case? Them women said that they were locked in rooms. Very different. Not the same. Man, if you don't say that again, they keep talking about some Diddy messed up Cassie's career and she can't sing. She cannot sing. Diddy didn't mess up her damn career. Not at all. She can't sing. She cannot sing. For real, for real. She most definitely cannot sing. Whew. So what is going to happen? Are they going to let him out, y'all? I'm trying to wait around and see if he's going to be set free. Is Diddy going to be set free? I think he's going to be set free. I think this judge does not want to look biased, and I think he's going to be set free. Y'all can't hold this man like this, because the reason why he was held in the first place, because you said he was dangerous. And the man was going to give, wasn't Diddy going to give like $50 million? It was something really high. But they claim he was so dangerous. Well, what they going to say now? What they going to say now? She sure was, Kay. Cassie always dated older men. Remember the one that she was with before she got with Diddy? He was 10 years older than her. Right. Right, Shawnee. There is no minimum sentence for the transportation of hookers. And that is what they're saying. Let him go. Let him go. Okay, Special K, this is a good one. Now, with regards to these other men who you have talked about, and you're talking about like discrimination. So what the not the defense, what the prosecution said was the reason that those men were let go was because their age, slightly older, and also they felt like those guys didn't have any violent connotation attached. Well, here's the deal. Diddy don't either, because the violence of everything, they didn't find him guilty of it. So that's what they're saying. So Diddy is essentially paying for sex. Okay. There's no violence toward that. Let him out. Let him out. Like, okay. He was convicted of it. Let him out. Diddy should be able to get out of here, do his life, and come back to court. I mean, just like everybody else. And this is where this judge is finna have some problems if he don't let him go. The judge is getting ready to have some problems, because we understand the state and the judge work for the same place, but you cannot be biased. You cannot be biased. Well, he might have gotten bail before, but they kept saying he was contacting witnesses. Right. You're right, Kay. But see, guess what? There's no witnesses to contact. It's over. So remember, so the good thing with this case and the situation is there's no witnesses to contact, because he was, so in those cases where there were witnesses, he was found not guilty. So he was only convicted of paying for the prostitutes to come over. So there's no witnesses at this point. And at this point, he was convicted of those 2 charges, but that was solely because he paid using his American Express. So that wouldn't really matter here. And hopefully he wouldn't be contacting these folks. I mean, you know what I mean? I don't think that would be an issue, because he was found not guilty in those cases. But they did say that. They did. And in all honesty, though, I thought that was pretty weak, because if you was charged with something, why come you can't reach out to the people and say, hey, what's up? Like, I didn't think that that was anything huge, but I feel like the government was going to try to make it seem like it was way more than what it was. So I think they did a fabulous job. They still have 80 indictments, and they have people with locked doors and security holding power to them. What you mean they still have 80 indictments? I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you mean. Angela said, I'm sure he will contact them. I don't think he will. This man realized that he could have went to jail for the rest of his life. I don't think he will. I really don't think that he will. If he does, we know that he got something else going on up here, because I don't think that he will. Because think about it. Jane Doe testified to all of this bullshit, and this man is paying her rent. What a dumbass bitch. Like, you know what I mean? Like, girl, if you need somebody to pay your rent, do you rather be homeless or do you rather testify? You need to pick your poison. So the fact that, yeah, I don't think that he would. I mean, if he does, that's kind of, that's something else. Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, yeah. He had 80 indictments against them. Gotcha. Yeah, okay. I got what you're saying. Yeah, it was looking like discrimination. I got you. But for some reason, they hate Diddy. They hate him. That's just, I don't know. They just hate Diddy. They hate Diddy. I think he's going home to get his eat on. Most definitely. He's going to go home to get his eat on. Hopefully not his freak on. Shawnee. Hopefully the eat on and not the freak on. Because if I was Diddy, I would become a man nun. I don't want it. I don't want it. No. Y'all hear my dog, Coco? Come on, Coco. Coco won't get out. Anybody need a dog? If the judge is wise, set Diddy free as time served with probation and make him make a generous monetary donation to that's a good one, organization, and become a speaker to inmates and victims. I like that one. I like that. And honestly, if the judge wants to be fair, he needs to do something fair, like letting him go. For one, y'all have ruined this man's reputation by some bullshit that he was not even convicted of. Let him go. Let him go. Y'all had to bring all these people in here, smear. I mean, if people like to get pissed on or whatever, that's their business. But the fact that y'all ruined this man's reputation. So I believe if the judge wants to be fair, he needs to go ahead and do time served and be done with this. While the prosecution is still talking about don't let him go. I tell you, them bitter ass women, them hoes be bitter forever. The prosecution is still saying don't let him go. This man has been pretty much not convicted of every serious crime, and they still saying how dangerous he is. Yes, Black America hates Black men, and for some reason, Black men keep forgetting that. Yes, they keep forgetting it. The prosecution is still saying don't let him out. Like, bitch, you act like he gonna get 10 years or something. There is no minimum time for this. And you got a person sitting in a federal jail for paying for sex. That can be a state. Well, no, it's not, because they crossed. Okay, so it's not state, but still, it's a very low totem pole federal charge. Come on now. Right. Mama Janice working on that feast party as we speak. I think he had every right to question someone that's living in his house that he owned and paying for his attorney. He better stay the hell away from that damn Daphnejoy. She's a dirty hoe. he better stay away from her, far away from her. What tape? You say he ruined his own reputation. What tape are you talking about? Are you talking about the tape for the domestic violence? I don't know what tape you're speaking of. I don't know what tape you're speaking of. Maybe that's what you mean. If I were Diddy's assistant, I would be writing down every network that keeps calling violent and sue them. Yep. Absolutely. He gonna need to do it. He gonna need to start suing some folks. And in all honesty, I think a lot of this started with YouTube. I mean, the hotel incident is not what he was charged with. I mean, we've all saw that, but the hotel incident didn't tell us about the stuff that they were doing in the hotel. So the hotel incident is not, I mean, people saw it and it was what it was. What I'm speaking of is having to testify in court talking about what y'all did in a hotel, which I could care less about knowing. That's what I'm talking about. So he basically settled with Cassie for nothing. So Queen Slay, let's just answer that question. Diddy never settled with Cassie, okay? I had to, and you can research this, by the way. His companies, of course, they settle. You know, when you have a company, you have all these different types of liability insurance. Let me just give you an example. I had a school. When you have a school, you have to have a policy. I don't know the exact name, but one of my policies was if in case any child was molested or something. So that was a policy that I had to have. So in different businesses, you have to have different insurance. So Diddy did not settle. The insurance company did. So that is what happened. I mean, people keep saying Diddy settled. He didn't. It was his insurance company. And Diddy did not give her 20 million. The insurance company did. So that's kind of how that goes. Yes, but you keep saying they ruined his reputation. He did it to himself. I said they ruined his reputation by talking about what he did intimately in the bedroom. That is what I believe. So what you believe and I believe is two different things. You do understand that. You are free to believe what you want. I said that they ruined his reputation because I don't want to know about anybody getting pissed on. I don't want to know about their bodily fluids or about anything that took place in the bedroom. So from my standpoint, me seeing him beat Cassie, that didn't ruin his reputation to me. It just showed me that he was a violent person. That's all it showed to me. That didn't ruin his reputation in my eyes. It showed me he was a violent person. Daphne got bigger fish to fry. Diddy cooking something up for her when he when he gets to cooking, boy, that cold revenge dish he gonna serve her. Yeah, so 50 Cent is trying to say that he about to take custody. I don't know about 50 Cent. I don't know. Well, Kay, if I remember correctly, I thought he had cash. I believe he gave that person cash. I don't know where it came from, but it was cash. It definitely was cash. I'm lost on how people stand for Cassie, and Cassie didn't never stand for Cassie. And Cassie didn't never stand for Cassie when the money was flowing her way. She never pressed charges on Diddy in 11 years. Right. And that's why I say, that for me in the entire Cassie situation, that's why I had to really listen to the trial, and it gave me what I needed because I knew something didn't sound right. And, watching the trial, and now that's why they found him not guilty, because the stories, they're inconsistent. You guys lied on the stand. They're sitting there watching it. Like, you were not authentic. You did not come in here to, you claim you want to serve justice. You lied. Cassie was there for the money. She kept trails of every single thing that happened, because ultimately this is what she was going to do. Nobody remembers shit that happened 8, 9, 10 years ago. You don't even remember what happened last week. Cassie did. She kept that information for a time such as this. And she sued his ass. Right. Right. Everyone in the industry knew what Diddy and Cassie were up to decades ago. Yeah, it's just, but the way that Cassie's attorney portrays her as a victim, she's no victim. She's no victim. She's not a victim. She was never a victim. She was pretty much in on it. So we're trying to figure out when are they going to, or if the judge is going to grant Diddy bail. Right. And that's another one, Special K. Yep, she started threatening him about the tell-all book. And if y'all remember, with the tell-all book, he pretty much paid her no attention, like girl down somewhere. And she filed a lawsuit. Got paid by the insurance company. She got paid by the insurance company. So I don't see anything. I'm just watching to see if the judge is going to grant him bail. Listen to this, y'all. Y'all remember I told y'all that these YouTubers was lying to y'all? Y'all remember I just said that? Y'all remember I just said that, right? Look at this. Now somebody is talking about how the people on YouTube been lying to y'all the whole time. I told y'all this. Y'all been going to these people channels, listening to them lie the whole Diddy trial. They was never giving y'all the real rundown of what was happening. Look at this video right here. Look at this right here. Shocking verdict in the Diddy trial and the YouTubers who lied. See, I told y'all. Can y'all wait a minute? Did I share my screen? Wait, let me see. Let me share y'all this. Right here. Here we go. Look at this. Shocking verdict in Diddy trial and the YouTubers who lied. I just said that. The YouTubers been lying to y'all the whole damn time, telling y'all Diddy going down, Diddy did this. They were never telling y'all what was really happening in court. Just lying. Capricorn said Cassie had no talent. I fell off my couch laughing at the testimony. I mean, she was telling the truth. I mean, y'all got to think about it. Diddy is about his money. If Diddy felt like he could have made some money, he would have. I don't think Cassie had it. Right, Cassie was compiling abusive evidence, which made her look like she was instigating those incidents, although Diddy was still liable for his actions. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because listen, Cassie's, that lawsuit, she had everything perfectly right. She had the dates and everything. There is no way in hell anybody could remember all of that. She was compiling that evidence from the beginning. There will be no way. She remembered everything. And then if y'all remember, there was some bruises that she had. She said that her mother took the picture. And that's what made me remember. I said, now, how? So they were keeping evidence the whole time. They were keeping evidence the whole time. Make it make sense. Was one of them... Oh, make it make sense. Was one of them and Simone Redwine, they both made a lot of money off this. They used their fans to pay for their time in New York during the trial. Oh, shoot, my battery is about to die. Give me a second. I got to plug up my computer. I didn't watch it. I don't know who were the bloggers. The reason why I'm saying that they lied to y'all is because some of them was running with the same story. Diddy going to jail? Diddy going to jail? It's like every day they were saying the same thing, but I was watching various different channels, and sometimes Diddy was winning. Sometimes the government was winning. But what y'all was watching is them constantly tell y'all how Diddy was going to jail. And they was giving y'all false information because they were not telling you all everything that was actually happening, which was, you know, they all had good days and some of them had, you know, bad days. That girl knew there were cameras around. That girl knew where the cameras were and how to get those angles perfect. Get out of here. Right. Yeah, Cassie been planning this. And I felt like Cassie purposely included 𝐷𝐸 in that drama in hopes that 𝐷𝐸 would get the ball rolling with the cops. I mean, think about it. Diddy hooks you up with 𝐷𝐸 to do a music video or whatever, and you start effing him. I mean, I'm not saying you should never put your hand on a woman, but girl, you asking for it. Like, what are you doing? Like it, but somebody said, and I don't remember who said this. They said that it was not just Diddy, it was Cassie too. I gotta find that video. It was I can't remember his name, but he was like security for Diddy, and he said that Cassie, it was not just Diddy. What they said was Cassie would just haul off and hit Diddy. They was like, look, they was fighting. It wasn't somebody. Yep. I'm gonna just put it on the screen. But yeah, a lot of the bloggers was lying to y'all, making up stuff that y'all wanted to hear and not really telling y'all the full story. Yeah. Every day he going to jail, They was not telling y'all the full story. And let me just kind of clarify that with y'all. So what a lot of bloggers do is they'll come on and tell y'all what they think y'all want to hear because it draws more people to their channel. But if they come on, you know, and you're doing a news story and they tell you, hey, it was a good day for Diddy, people mad, you know, because they want Diddy to go to jail. So if they continue to spin a narrative by telling you Diddy going down, y'all gonna keep watching because we got a lot of bitter women that want to see Diddy go to jail for whatever, you know, reason. And they was just lying to y'all the whole time. Y'all was not getting the true facts. And that's why when it came out that he's not guilty, people like, how is he not guilty? Because y'all been listening to these bloggers lie to y'all the whole entire time. They were not telling y'all the truth. Diddy had some wins just like he had some losses. The government had some wins just like he had some losses. Right. They're not telling y'all the right information. And that's why when I want to watch news, I don't go to certain channels because I want to get the right information. The defense rested without calling any witnesses. At that point, they already knew it wasn't necessary. Yeah. And see, think about this too, Kay. Any witness that they would have called would have had to been at some point involved. Like they couldn't call like a character witness or somebody to say what a nice person, you know, Diddy is. They would have had to call somebody who was around this situation, but hell, they had already called them. Like who else would they have called? So the fact that they didn't call anybody, they really didn't need to. And people talked about Diddy taking the stand. Diddy did not need to take the stand. And if Diddy would have taken the stand, it would have been bad. Because keep in mind, when you get on the stand, they can just ask you anything. The jury is going to look at Diddy's demeanor and all those sorts of things. So it was best that he did not take the stand. He don't need to take the stand. I heard that. Oh boy. Wait a minute. Okay. He's the one with that long story about being used. Yeah, it was I heard this. Tisa got put out of court because she told everyone who Jane Doe. I heard that, and is that the reason why she's doing the videos outside? Yeah, I did hear that. But yeah, they was lying to y'all. They was not giving y'all the full information. The verdict is heartbreaking. Women are not protected in this country. Diddy is free to abuse more victims. Yeah, so I don't believe that. I don't believe that. So these women, they were not victims. They benefited. They said they liked it. They testified to a lot of different things. So I think victims are, protected, but are you a victim saying that you were trafficked, but you wanted to do it? I mean, that's kind of hard to follow. So these women were not victims, and the jury saw through it. You got 12 people that felt like they were not victims. Keep in mind, they got on the stand, they testified. I don't believe that. I believe victims are protected, but I believe it gets a little weird when you say you're a victim, and you're saying that you're forced to do something, but yet you say that you wanted to do it. So it's like, are you a victim or did you want to do it? And what I said is, how do you say you're a victim unless you say, I am a victim, I just didn't want to do it these specific times? You have to give us the times that you say that you was forced to do something, and they didn't do that. These women say that they were victims, but yet you loved them. All of these things, he bought you this. We saw text messages where he asked you if you wanted to, so it's just, they looked at the evidence, and this is what they arrived at. This is what they arrived at. This is what they arrived at. I don't want to live in a world where a woman can say that a man did something and not have it investigated. I don't want to live in that world. I have sons, so I don't want no hoe to be able to say either one of my sons, cousins, my brothers did anything to her and not have it investigated. That's the type of world that I want to live in, because they lie. Women lie, just like these hoes on the screen lie. They did not get on the stand and tell the truth. And that is the reason why he was found not guilty. That's the reason. You said, of course you don't. If you have to beat me into submission. Who was beat into submission? How did they prove that? And that's why they went to a jury trial. Nobody was beat into submission. Again, if they wanted to use this particular reason, they never proved it. They didn't prove it. Even at the end, the jury went and got the specific transcripts of when Cassie said she was beat at the hotel. So they went and got that specific transcript. But you got to understand, what we saw on that video, that was not the full video. The video that was circulating, you do know that wasn't the full video. That's not the full video. So the video is actually longer. Cassie said that she was beat and that she wanted to leave. But what we also learned is that it wasn't actually a freak off going on. So Cassie told a lot of lies, and that's what I'm trying to get to. There was not a freak off going. Well, at least the jury believed that. If I'm remembering correctly, I know even on the video, Cassie said she wanted to leave. Cassie didn't leave, but what the video that they showed y'all, you saw her being dragged. It looked like maybe she did want to leave, but in fact she didn't, because they showed the long video. Cassie didn't go anywhere. She didn't go. Now, another thing I found out was that, again, she said it was a freak off. They didn't believe it. I mean, they looked at the transcripts. They didn't believe it. So it was, which is interesting, because I didn't believe it either. I'm like, something is missing here. What I think, and apparently a lot of other people think, at some point, Cassie got mad and decided to file this lawsuit because she didn't have money. This woman waited 7, 8 years. How many years did she wait for her to realize that she had been trafficked? Not only that, we must remember, during the time that this was happening, she was broke, living with her mother. Cassie, we don't believe your story. Then she's a victim, so she say, but she had sex with this man. Her now husband calls her, who she was dating then. And then all of a sudden now she says she was ard. So she was ard, went back to her life, came back a few weeks later to have sex with the same man she said ard her. No, we don't believe it. We don't believe your story. We don't believe your story, Cassie. It's a lot of holes and inconsistency in her story. No. And I'm glad I live in a world where we just don't take what people say because they a woman, because these hoes lie. They lie, niggas lie, they lie. Women get very emotional. They become very bitter when people move on. They don't know how to take rejection. I'm glad that I don't want to live in that type of world. I don't want to. Well, if the entertainer was in the room, why didn't the entertainer testify? Or did the entertainer testify and say that there was not a freak off, which would mean Cassie lied, like I said, because 12 people found him not guilty. So that means 12 people felt that Cassie was not being honest. And guess what? A lot of people felt like that. Cassie got what she wanted, $30 million. I'm sorry, Cassie. Full of ish. There is no way a dude going to beat me and then I go back to his house and continue the relationship. Hello. But let's say he had a whole bunch of money. You might be like, well, you know what? This ass whooping ain't so bad after all. Absolutely. Let's talk about that. She was violent with him because she tore up the room because she was mad because he was going home. He was going home because his main woman called Kim Porter. She admitted on the stand she hated her. Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. These people, they see what they want to see. The girl testified that she was jealous of Kim. It wasn't anything about no SEX worker in the room. There was no proof of an SEX worker. The girl was mad because he was going back home to Kim after having a freak off with her. Somebody was saying that the women was never protected. Sonia. So the truth of the matter is, Cassie is a liar. She lied on this man, tried to get him in prison for the rest of his life because she was bitter because he didn't want her like that. And then at Kim's funeral, Diddy said that Kim was his soulmate. That was the time that they broke up. This was the time that Cassie left and never came back, because the truth of the matter is they had gotten into it at the hotel because Diddy was going back home to Kim, which Cassie testified she was jealous of Kim. So the issue there was, again, Cassie lied. That no freak off was going on. Should he had put his hands on that woman? Absolutely not. But again, this is why the jury didn't buy it, because they was lying. You were not telling the truth. But when we talk about how, everybody's talking about how low down and dirty Diddy is, but look at the type of person Cassie is. She has moved on. She's married. She got her kids. And you are how many years into this relationship? Now you want to come back and put this man in prison for the rest of his life. Now too, that you a mother and you know how it feels to be a mother. You want to put him in prison for the rest of his life based on a relationship that didn't work. And I'm glad that the jury acquitted him. I'm glad that he was acquitted, because this was never about what they say he did. This is about, I'm about to get this nigga back. That's what that was about. It was about nothing more than that. Cassie kept very good receipts of what he did to her over the years. She had pictures. She knew exact dates. But one thing she didn't know is when to fucking leave. So she kept more notes of what he did to her and stayed there to make sure she collected a check. She was all about the money. All about the money. The true revelation is to accept that she simultaneously forever tarnished both their reputations. Yeah. Diddy is going to be all right regardless, while Cassie earned her rightful title at Potty Mouth Kitty. Yeah. You know what, Sonia? This is what I think, girl. Like I'm starting to think that maybe you were abused. Now I understand, like, when people are abused, their understanding is different. It's not my business. So I don't hold any hate in my heart for Diddy or her. You say you don't support them. Don't support them. They're going to have nothing to do with me. Okay. I don't even think they wanted Diddy to love them. They just wanted to be the main one getting the money, the love. Cap was a front. It was all about the money. It was definitely all about the money. It was all about the money. I mean, Jane Doe testified. Diddy was buying, was it yungmiami and Gina a purse or something, and he bought her a purse, which she didn't like, that he bought them a Chanel purse. Get the girl, well, how about this? Get a job and buy your own purse. Get a job and buy your own purse. It was really, really stupid. They were looking for him to say he loved them, and he never did, nor did he want many of them to have his children. Say that a woman scorned is very dangerous. Very dangerous. And guess what, Shawnee? She came on the stand and said that. Jealous. She was jealous of a whole nother woman. You were jealous. That's crazy. That's crazy. She was jealous. She said that on the stand. She most definitely was jealous of Kim. Y'all, let me see if they're saying anything about him being let go. What are they saying? I don't see anything. Maybe they'll say something later on, but I don't see anything. Well, yeah, I don't see anything, y'all, with regards to him being let go yet. So let's see here.
And figure out what we want to do about that. Mark Agnifilo, Diddy's lead attorney, said we need bail. He should be released immediately. And then and then we're still waiting to see what's going to happen. So the other thing is they have a ton of information already in their files, the prosecutors do, about Diddy and about his ability to handle a bail situation or a situation when he's out there. He proposed a $50 million bail. Imagine that, $50 million for bail in order to get out while this trial was, before the trial actually started, while he was incarcerated. So they denied that. They denied the bail request a couple of times, and several times actually. And so we'll see what's happening, but that's the next development in this. Is like most of the family has left the court. The jurors were taken out on a side entrance, a little known side entrance. They were not brought through the front of the courthouse, which a lot of people were hoping would happen, so they could get a chance to get a few words with them. But that wasn't the case. They were brought out on a private, semi-private or secret type entrance, and then they were brought out like that. And then it's just a waiting game right now, guys, in terms of the bail. Let me bring in attorney Peter Frankel right now. We'll just get a sense of what you have to do to get bail. Peter, in terms of the bail, what do they have to do for bail?
Well, the first thing that we need to understand is that this case is completely different than it was when he was first arrested. In essence, the jury rejected the government's case and found that their main witnesses, 𝐶𝐶𝐴ventura and Jane, were not credible through their testimony. So defense counsel is no doubt going to explain to the court that this case, as the court knows, is completely different. And this is not a situation where a significant bond even needs to be set at this point. The charges for which he was convicted of don't even carry mandatory minimums. They carry a maximum of 10 years.
But it could be 0 or time served,
and I'm sure that the defense team is going to argue for no jail time for him. So the first step is to recognize this case has completely changed from what it once was.
And then in terms of you say no minimum on the transportation for prostitution charges. And the fact of the matter is that means it could be, like you said, he could get time served. He's been at MDC now for like over 9 months. And could that time be applied to any potential sentence down the road?
Yeah, absolutely. Any time that he's already served will be credited to any time that he may get for a sentence. I'm quite certain, however, the government's position on sentencing and the defense's position on sentencing are going to be completely at odds with one another, and it's going to be really interesting to see how the court handles sentencing in this case, because most of the government's case was rejected.
All right, and then for people that are just joining us, it was being considered a victory for the defense. Not guilty on the RICO charge, the racketeering conspiracy #1 charge, not guilty on the 2 counts of sex trafficking, and guilty only on this prostitution charge.
Correct. It was a complete repudiation of the government's case. And where he was once looking at a potential life sentence, he's no longer looking at a definite jail sentence. So now the work really begins for the defense team to try to make sure that if he does get out today or whenever it may be, that he doesn't go back in.
And then in terms of filing any kind of an appeal to this conviction, what's the timeline typically for a case like this of when that would happen?
So typically sentencing wouldn't occur in federal court for 8 weeks or longer. It's possible the defense will file motions in advance of sentencing, trying to have that guilty verdict thrown out. A regular appeal to the Second Circuit would not occur until after he were sentenced.
Oh, so they would go all the way through to that, and then
Yes.
and then they would decide whether or not they're going to have an appeal.
I'm sure there'll be an appeal regardless of what his sentence is.
And then what about the reputation for the Southern District? It's always been kind of the most vaunted and most respected, well-respected. What does this do to their
Well,
reputation?
it's a great question, Lisa, because we know criminal prosecutions in this district result in convictions some 95% of the time.
Right, and people know that, and that's why
So-
they said, "Oh, it's a federal case. He's done," and he's not done, not by a long shot.
No, exactly right. So, I think the Southern District is going to take a long, hard look at the case that they brought and whether or not they want to bring similar prosecutions going forward, especially as it relates to the RICO charge, which everyone knew was going to be extremely difficult from the beginning.
Right, and then in terms of just in terms of the timeline for him to get out, is it possible he could get out this afternoon? Because we've seen kind of movement here on the block with them shutting down the block, but they brought in a lot of NYPD officers here to handle the crowds and stuff like that, giving us a sense that, okay,
I done muted myself. Okay, Shawnee, let me answer your question. So this entire case was centered around 2 people, Cassie and Jane Doe, or Daphnejoy is her real name. So for each of them, there was the sex trafficking, and then there were the transportation, because what they said is during them allegedly being sex trafficked, that they flew the hookers in, right? So they're charging him twice, because one for Cassie and one for Jane Doe. So although he wasn't charged with sex trafficking them, he's charged with flying the hookers in to sleep with them. Okay, if that makes sense.
He heard the decision this morning.
wait, hold on 1 second. Somebody's coming out of the. Okay, so it's just this huge crowd. There's a huge crowd here. His demeanor throughout the entire trial, for the most part, except for a few times, like last week, he said to the judge, when he had to say that he was not going to represent himself. There's an actual, it's called an allocution, where the defendant has to actually say that they are not going to take the stand in their own defense, and that was last week. So when Combs was asked that, the judge said, Mr. Combs, how are you? And he goes, I'm doing great, Judge. And Judge, you're doing a great job. And it was just like something like nobody expected a defendant to talk to the judge that way, but that was just his personality and his demeanor. But of course, since the deliberation started, his demeanor has been very subdued. He's been much more quiet. And again, you have to understand why all this is going on during the day. All of these deliberations were happening, and even during the test, especially during this week, he's in a holding cell. They take him out of the courtroom. He's in the holding cell while the court goes on, and basically he had a couple of books with him that he was allowed to bring there to read, to do something, but just basically thinking about like what's going to happen, what's my life going to be like. But there were different times where he prayed. He was allowed to pray privately with his mother. The other day, just have a couple of words with her. There was a private prayer with the kids yesterday, and it's just his demeanor. It really depends on what the circumstances are, but it's clear that this was a huge weight on him. This is a guy that basically made his name for himself with his tremendous showmanship, and also with his ability to engage a crowd. And there were a couple times during the trial when he tried to engage the jury, and the judge admonished him and told him that if it happened again, he wouldn't hesitate to remove him from the courtroom. But I'm sure there's a tremendous sense of relief. I'm sure last night was an unbearable night for everybody involved with this case, both the prosecution and the defense. And we're waiting now to see if they're going to expedite or at least follow through on getting this bail done, which I think is probably from what our experts, what Peter Frankel was just telling us, and some of the other experts were saying that they would, that they expect to happen today, guys. But that's the latest from here. We're going to keep a watch on that door, and we'll be back with you.
Yeah, Lisa, you mentioned that charisma, especially through the judge starting off with, that's the charisma that allowed him to have these relationships with women that turned out pretty badly, as we saw by some of these evidence. You mentioned the big crowd behind you there. What is the sentiment from that crowd there? Are those people in support of Diddy, or are these women's groups that are very upset about what happened?
Well, it was interesting, though, because I would have expected the women's groups, honestly, to show up a little bit earlier in the trial, like while the testimony was going on, or to come out to support. And there were a couple of individual women, maybe 2 or 3 at a time at certain points when Cassie was on the stand. But most of the people that were out here, and it has thinned out a little bit, were here to support Diddy, or they were just curious to see what, to see what was going on. There's a large contingent also of podcasters and people who are doing their own, doing their own thing to get the word out like that. So it's kind of a mixed bag right here, and everybody just waiting now. You got a lot of professional media from all over the world here to cover this story, because he is one of the most famous men in the world, and this has been covered heavily everywhere. Guys, back to you.
All right, Lisa, thank you so much for that.
Stay with us. We'll be right back as we continue covering the verdict coming down.
Y'all, I found a picture. Y'all know cameras are not allowed in federal court, but y'all know they have like a sketch artist there. So they sketched Diddy when the verdict was read. Y'all, Diddy got on his knees. Look at this. Look at this picture. Y'all look at Diddy. Y'all see? So when the verdict was read, Diddy got on the floor. Look, Diddy got on the floor and got on his knees like, look, thank you, God. They said when the verdict was read, Diddy got on his knees like, look, I am not finna play with it. Okay? I don't blame them. They was trying to put this man in jail for the rest of his life. This is how he reacted to the verdict. Diddy like, look, wait a minute, God. Diddy got on his knees. Right. We definitely, let me read that. Some of you get it. Many of you don't. We have to be very careful about who we damn as victims. We aren't advocating for Diddy. We are simply saying stop the BS. Oh yeah, definitely not advocating for Diddy. But I just feel like this case, this wasn't it. Like this case wasn't it. This was not it. definitely not advocating for Diddy, but people can choose however they decide to whatever they do in their bedroom. But at the end of the day, there wasn't no trafficking here. I mean, it's been proven. And honestly, through this whole case, I was like, damn, why do I feel dumb? Like, where is the RICO? Like, where is even the trafficking? Like, how do you get on the stand and say you didn't say no because you feared that if you would get hurt? Like, that's not enough. Like, you gotta have something else. Like, and even with some of the things that they described, the jury didn't believe it, and I didn't either. I was like, something is not adding up. So I think the jury did good here. The jury did good. But I know me, I'm not definitely not advocating for, Diddy, but what's right is right. You just can't send somebody to jail for the rest of their life just because you don't like them. Now, y'all, we're gonna wait to see what happens with regards to if he's going to be released. So I believe they're probably going to come back in a few hours or so. The judge has requested that both sides put something in writing, but I believe they're gonna let him go. Y'all, let me know what y'all think.